Thanks for tuning in at Brackeys.
Hello everyone and welcome to video number 17 in Make a Game, a cool series on making a video game in Unity. So today we're going to be taking a look at something that has been requested quite a lot, which is player spawn points. More specifically, we're going to take a look at checkpoints. So until now, whenever our player has died, we've simply restarted the scene. But what I want to do now is I want to have some points scattered out throughout our level, which our player will respawn on if he's reached that point. Then later we can expand and maybe have some kind of life limit and before the score runs out and all that. But right now we're just going to set up the checkpoint system itself. As always, if you have any questions throughout this video, I suggest you head over to forum.brackeys.com, where there are many people who are just waiting to answer your questions. I'm also often here as much as I can be. And you can see that there are a lot of replies on each thread. So it's very rare that a thread go unanswered. Cool. So as always, I've opened up Unity. And I'm currently using Unity 4.6. It's out of beta and now just available. So as you can see, my current version is 4.6, just so you know. 4.6 also introduces this 2D view up here, which I've just clicked because we are going to be using or placing some spawn points, and it makes sense to place them in a 2D view because we are not really using the Z-axis when it comes to stuff like that. Cool. So the first thing I want to do here is just select our ball and have a look at how it's currently set up. So if we go under our ball health script, which currently handles our health and our respawning, we can double click that to open it up in Mono Develop, and we'll open up here. I'm just going to zoom in on the code here so you have an easier time reading this. And let's just maximize it also. Cool. So what we can see here is that we currently have an update function that checks if restarting is true or is false. And if it is, it restarts our level. So you can see we have an if statement that checks if we fell below our max fall distance. And if we have, it's going to restart our level and make sure to do it just once using this boolean. And inside of the restart level function, we set, first of all, is restarting to true. We then do some audio work. We then wait for the audio clip to stop playing and load the new level. And this right here is basically where we can replace, is basically what we are going to be replacing. So instead of using application.loadLevel and just restarting the level, we are going to teleport our player to the nearest spawn or to the furthest spawn point that the player has reached. So right here, I'm just currently gonna say debug.log teleport player. Like this, and hit save. So just so we know that that's where we're going to teleport our player. But first we need a place to teleport him to. So in order to do this, let's create an empty game object by pressing Ctrl-Shift-N or Command-Shift-N if you're on a Mac. Let's rename this to checkpoint. Let's zero out the transform by right-clicking and hitting reset. So a position of 0 and a rotation of 0. Now let's make sure that we're not using the 2D editing tools, but instead using the normal transform tools here so we can see and place our object as we want to. And let's just move it over here on the third block. Just somewhere around here is going to be fine. Now we can go ahead and mark our checkpoint so we can easily find it in our scene. And in order to do this, we simply use this drop-down menu right to the left of our object name, and we can select some different icons. I'm simply going to select maybe a blue one, and you can see that it automatically inserts the checkpoint name. You could also do some kind of icon like a star or something, but I think that having descriptive names is often best. What we can then do is add a component, and this is going to be a physics component. and it's gonna be a box collider. You can go ahead and use a sphere collider, but what is awesome about the box collider is that we can stretch it a lot along the Y. And this is simply gonna act as a trigger that checks if our ball has passed through this point. Let's say you had a ball that went over here and then down and then around and all that. Then I would suggest you either didn't stretch this box collider out so much and maybe just made it smaller, or you could just go ahead and use a sphere collider instead. So if we remove this component and add a physics sphere collider and then simply bump up the radius here, you can see that's going to work just fine as well. I'm just for this game as is. Actually, let's just keep the sphere component. I almost like that better. So let's just change the radius here to something like 3.5, maybe just 4. I don't mind this being too large. It's going to save our checkpoint as soon as we enter the radius. So let's just do 3 and move it up a bit. So if we pass through this point, we want, of course, to set this place that we want to spawn to this checkpoint right here. So what we want to do is we want to hit add component, new script, and then it's going to be of type JavaScript. And we're simply going to call this checkpoint because it's going to store all of the stuff that we need to do with checkpoints. Now we create an add, double click it to open it up in MonoDevelop. And we can just go ahead and delete both our function start and our function update. We are going to be making our own function, and this is going to be a on trigger enter. And this is very important that you type it in exactly like this, because if you get this wrong, it's not going to be called, and it's going to be very hard to debug because you're not going to get an error if you don't type it right. It's just not going to work. So please check your spelling. Then inside of these parentheses, we are first going to, or what we're going to do inside these parentheses is we're going to store some information about what has entered our trigger. And then we're going to call it something so we can reference it later. So what we're going to call this information, maybe we could do call for collider, because some kind of collider has obviously entered our trigger. So I'm just going to call it call. And it's going to be of type collider. And the collider class here stores all kinds of information. It has the transform and therefore the position and rotation. It has name, the tag, all of the components on the object is also something we can get. So we can basically, we can basically use this class to get all of the information that we want from the object that has enters our trigger. And then I'm going to open up these brackets here. Cool. And inside of this function, what we want to do is we want to set this kind of global variable to this specific point. So let's first go ahead and create a global variable that it's just going to be one of. So we're going to make it static. And what static means is that it's not bound to any specific version of the checkpoint, but it's just one single global variable that all the checkpoints and other objects can access. So if that's confusing to you, please bear with me, but just see how I write this out and you might understand it later. So let's write static var, and we are going to call this reached point, maybe, because it's going to store the furthest point that we've reached. And it's going to be of type vector3. And a vector3 just stores 3 values, and that's going to be our x, y, and z. So a vector3 basically just looks like this, just like Cartesian coordinates. So 2, 0, 4, for example. That's an example of a vector3. So inside of this onTrigger enter, first thing we want to do is we want to check if it's the player that has entered our collider and not something like the ground. So in order to do this, we're going to type if call, because that's the information about what has entered, dot tag is equal to player. So if the collider that has entered has a tag called player, then it's going to call the code that we insert down here. And therefore, we need to make sure that our ball is indeed tagged as player. If not, go ahead and add the tag and make sure to tag it here. Great. So now we know that it's the player that we are colliding with. Then what we can go ahead and do is simply say that our reached point is going to be equal to this collider's position. So collider.transform.position. Oops. Or even easier maybe, because we could just set this to transform.position. I actually like that better. So if what is colliding is the player, then we're going to set the point that we reached to the current position of our checkpoint. But there's one issue with this, and I'll just go ahead and show it to you. So if we go under our ball health script, instead of calling teleport player here, we are simply going to say checkpoint dot, and now we can access our static variables. So we're going to just say checkpoint dot reached point like this. And then we can simply set our position equal to that. So transform.position equals checkpoint.reached point. This way we don't need to access a specific checkpoint. We can just say any checkpoint has this variable called reached point, and we're going to set our position equal to that. So now let's save this. Let's also save the checkpoint, and let's head into Unity. And what we can do is simply jump over here and try and fall down. So jump over here, and this is where our collider should be. But you can see that there's currently an issue. And the reason why we just fell off there is we need to select our checkpoint and then check the is trigger. This will actually make it into a trigger so we don't collide with it, but it's just going to notice whenever we touch it. So what we can do is make this checkpoint into a prefab. And I just want to quickly go ahead and scatter two of these. So we are going to place one here. And then I'm going to drag another checkpoint in and place one over here. Then what we can do is we can simply jump over here. So now we've passed the first checkpoint. You can see in the scene view, we've passed the first one. And then I'm gonna jump over to the next one. And you can see that we've passed the next one. And then I'm gonna jump back again. Let's say we are backtracking here to find a coin or something. And now I've passed the first one again. And if I now jump down, our position should reset to the first one. So if I jump down here, you can see that we respawn on the first one. And that's not what we want. We want to only change our checkpoint's position if it's greater than what we've before achieved. So what we can do inside of the script here is we can make another if statement. It says if, and then we can say transform dot position dot x, because we are only getting our x value and because we are always traveling along the x-axis. If again you have some kind of game where it goes around, I suggest you look at how to store these checkpoints in a list so you can just check if it's number 2 and number 3. You could also just make a variable on the checkpoint that says that has like the number, so the order of the checkpoint. But again, I suggest you look up what is called an array or a list if you're interested in some more advanced checkpoint mechanics. Cool. So if our transform.position.x is larger than the reached point.x, so if our position here, the checkpoint's position, is greater than the point that we reached last, then we want to change the reached point. And only then. So now let's save this. And now if we head in here, hit play, jump up here. Now we've passed the first one. jump over here, pass the second one, now go back, and pass the first one again, and now we jump down. See, maybe we can jump down here. Nope. Oh, now we are stuck. That's annoying. So I'm just gonna get the ball here, move him up. So, and now we jump down over here. You can see that our position is set to the second one. So it's over here. And that's perfect. And you can see that we can just do this infinitely. It will just fall down and then jump to the checkpoint over there. Or not. What's going on here? Let's see. So it looks like we have a bug with our ball health. And that's probably because of the is restarting mechanic that we have going on here. So let's just check this out. So if we fall down here, we check if is restarting is equal to false. By default, it's going to be equal to false. If it is, we restart our level. When we restart our level, we set is restarting to true. And then we fall down and all that. So there you see we have our issue. Our issue is simply that is restarting is never equal to false again. So instead what we want to do is maybe when we go down here, set is restarting back to false. Let's just go ahead and try that out. So now when we hit play, and I'm just going to turn up the volume on my computer here so I can hear whether or not the music is playing correctly too. So hit play. And we're just going to pass the first one. And then we're going to jump down.
Game over.
It says game over and we respawn. Now we can try that again.
Game over.
And it does so again. So now we can do that infinitely and that's perfect. Cool. So I'm just going to turn off my music again here. You should still be able to hear it. Cool. So that's how you solve bugs. That's a great example of an annoying bug, and I just wanted to show you kind of the process behind how to resolve some of these bugs. Cool. So now we actually have a checkpoint system that is working as it should. We have these checkpoints that we can scatter throughout as prefabs, and we have some method of checking whether or not we've actually reached a further point or we've just gone back. And we also have a way for the ball health script, we can delete this comment now, to set its position to the checkpoint that we've reached. So that's basically all I wanted to show you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And before I go ahead and turn this off, I just quickly want to drag our ball here down to a prefab 2 because it's been annoying me that we didn't have a player prefab. Also, I just wanted to quickly clean some of this up so we can take our ball health, our checkpoint, our coin pickup, game master and main menu script, drag them under the scripts folder. Then we can maybe make a separate folder, create folder called textures. And we can drag them, the different textures and normal maps onto there. Then another one called prefabs, where we can drag our GM, music, ball, chain hammer, checkpoint, coin effect, all of that. Just drag it under the prefabs folder. Then we drag our glow particle under the materials folder. And I can see there are 2 more prefabs here, which should go into the prefabs folder. Then we have the coin rotate, that's an animation. So let's just go ahead and create an animations folder also. Animations. And I think we're just going to leave our scenes in here. So now everything is just a bit nicer to look at. So that's basically it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you in the next one.